Okay, so first I want to start off by saying that I value public vulnerability. I believe that thick, seemingly impenetrable walls can be broken down when we practice the art of authentic listening to the experiences of others. Listening to understand and to learn, listening to honor truths that are different from our own. That being said, I should probably rephrase my initial statement. I value public vulnerability when I'm not the one having to do it. For me, it's a lot easier to create the space for others to share their truths than to share my own. But in the spirit of leaning into discomfort in very public spaces, I agreed to share some of my truths today. So when Emily Joy emailed me last week to see if I'd be interested in speaking today, I wanted to throw up. Honestly, I wanted to throw up. Public speaking isn't my thing, and the idea of weighing in on anything that has to do with biblical text scared and still scares the crap out of me. So that was my first reaction. And then I saw this passage that she was asking me to speak on, and this is the part of the story where you think I'm going to tell you my fear was magically lifted and the skies parted and I encountered God, right? Wrong. I read the passage and very bad words came to my mind that I'm not going to repeat here, but I'd be happy to share afterwards. So first of all, sheep analogies tend to make me laugh. The visual image that comes to mind when I think of feeding sheep is of the time that I went to Mooville, and this ginormous sheep practically inhaled my ice cream cone. And I brought a picture of it today. Okay, Emily Joy's putting it up. Let's wait for that. Okay, well, you can laugh at inappropriate times then if that suits you. So secondly, can we just be honest for a second? If I was Peter and Jesus asked me the same question 3 times in a row, using slightly different words, I'd probably be pretty irritated. In fact, I'd probably say Jesus wasn't practicing the art of authentically listening. Side note, I know that there's biblical significance to that. It's just a joke, so don't worry, blasphemy aside. But all joking and blasphemy aside, the reason why my stomach dropped when I saw this passage was because I've read it 1,000 times. And 1,000 times I've heard the same message. A message about providing a very transactional service to people that we see as less than. Oh, here's the picture. I'll wait for this. Oh. I promise it's worth it. There we go. So that is the infamous sheep that inhaled my ice cream cone that, this is the place that this brings me to. So it looks like a ram, but it said it was a sheep. So, okay, so anyways, but all joking and blasphemy aside, the reason why my stomach dropped is because I've read this passage and heard this message 1,000 times. And it's about a message of providing a very transactional service to people that we see as less than. A message that quite honestly perpetuates this colonialist manifest destiny mentality that has destroyed communities and peoples for hundreds of years. Growing up, I heard messages that typically went something like this. See someone who's hungry, feed them, but don't you dare support equitable access to fresh and affordable foods. See someone who is sick, pray for them, but God forbid we fight for affordable preventative health care. See someone who's in prison, again, pray for them, but don't question why disproportionate numbers of black men are being put in jail every day. Don't question the system that detains and deports mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, lovers and friends, tearing apart families and traumatizing an entire generation of youth left to pick up the broken pieces. So as I read this passage, it was very effective in bringing forth all of the anger that I have towards pastors and preachers and mentors and friends that have told me that detached acts of kindness will lead to salvation. And all that reminds me of a quote that says, when I give food to the poor, they call me a saint, and when I ask why they are poor, they call me a communist. So I'm not here to promote communism, but I'd love to chat afterwards if you'd like. But I am here to say that we and that I need to make a spiritual practice of asking why. A practice that examines and calls out the racist, classist, sexist, heterosexist, ableist systems that only serve to oppress people. I stand in front of you today with a whole lot of privilege. I'm a white, middle-class, able-bodied heterosexual, and I might not be responsible for creating the systems, but I'm sure as hell responsible for calling them out and working towards a more equitable society. Because if I'm not working to address the inequities, I'm part of the problem. Truthfully, I think this is why I'm so bothered by the passage we're discussing today. Given the fact that Jesus was a lover of justice and truth, I'm pretty sure the whole runaround was not actually about telling Peter to care for his people in very transactional and removed ways. I'm pretty sure Jesus wasn't giving anyone permission to exploit others in the name of good intentions. But that's the message that has been preached by countless pastors and people of faith. And I'm going to take a risk and say that that kind of theology, the kind that upholds certain power dynamics and privilege, only serves to perpetuate violence and injustice. I'm saying all this today not because I've arrived or I've figured it out. I'm saying it because I've got to stop self-silencing around issues of injustice in our own community. It's not okay that our city still lawfully allows discrimination against LGBTQ folks in the workplace. It's not okay that our schools are suspending African American boys at disproportionate rates. It's not okay that parents that don't speak a particular way can't get the services that they need for their kids. It's not okay that certain services are completely inaccessible to some because they fail to provide the necessary language supports. And it's not okay that funders who say that they work to eradicate injustices also invest in systems that perpetuate them. All of this and the host of injustices that are happening right now, they're not okay. And guys, I need your encouragement and I need your accountability. I'll say it again, I think that fighting injustice is a spiritual practice. And I think that fighting injustice in community, I believe, is the incarnate body and blood of Christ. I'm so proud of the work that this church is doing, both on an individual and collective level, but we've got to keep showing up, and I've got to keep showing up. And even when it's uncomfortable, we've got to keep showing up. And, you know, for me, it's not good enough to just show up. Because I show up to a lot of different things, but there are times that I sit silently, and not because I'm creating space for someone else, but because I'm paralyzed with the fear of what might happen if I speak up. So today I'm asking permission to be publicly vulnerable and speak out. I'm giving you permission to call me out when I'm not checking my privilege, and I'm giving us permission to hold on to each other through conflict and turmoil. So I want to end with one of my favorite quotes from Pedagogy of the Oppressed that says, "No one can be authentically human while he prevents others from being so." Thanks.